first thing I realized is that he was living under like 3 different names. Guten Morgen, everyone. Welcome to this, the first ever episode of Drink and Discuss, where we sit down here in front of the blue sofa and discuss some topic while having a tasty drink. This week's topic of discussion goes into the category, did that really happen? And it's gonna be all about the roommate in New York that I found out was spying on me pooping. Yes, welcome. I'm so glad you've made it here. If you've come over from the red sofa on the very unofficial travel guides, how awesome that you're here. Very happy. The red sofa, by the way, is right over here. We also have a blue sofa, so I'm just switching it up so you know the difference. And for everybody who's never seen the very unofficial travel guides and have just showed up here, that's awesome too. Prost! This week's Drink and Discuss drink is a Jumbo Cosmopolitan. It is a drink with vodka and cranberry and other things, and if you want to see how I made it, check out the link in the description below. If you guys are having a drink right now, what did you make? Let me know, share your recipes, maybe I'll make your drink here on the channel. And like I said in the beginning, and like you read in the title, I want to tell you this story that is a true story, and I've never told it on the very unofficial travel guides, even though we talk about bathrooms and pooping and stuff like that a lot, just because I felt like it was never really like travel related. And because I wanted to start with a bang here on this channel, I decided, all right, well, let's start with telling this story. And I have to tell you, there's gonna be a lot of stories like this here on this channel of things where you think, did that really happen? And you know, I ask myself that a lot. Things happen to me or have happened to me in my life that when I am telling them to other people, I realize that it sounds so ridiculous that they probably think I'm just making it up. Trust me, this is real and it really happened. And it started in New York City in around 1996, I want to say. Like many people who studied musical theater and had the dream of working professionally as a live musical theater performer, I moved to New York City. I had quite a few friends that I had worked with at other jobs around the country who I knew that were living there, who offered me to stay on their couch, and I had like $200 in my bank account and a credit card. What else do you need? So I moved to the city and I stayed with this one group of friends for a month, and then I stayed with another group of friends for a month, and then I stayed with another group of friends for a month. And you know, the weird thing is, no landlord in New York City will give you an apartment if you don't have a stable job or any money. Isn't that weird? So I got kind of desperate because I was running out of friends' couches to sleep on, and also I was looking forward to having like some stability and like some place to like unpack my suitcase. So I signed up for this service that is supposed to help people find roommates. So if you have an empty room in your apartment, you could sign up and say you're looking for a roommate and they would help, you know, coordinate it. Or if you were somebody like me who was looking for a roommate situation, they, you know, it was like, you know, like a dating service for people looking for roommates. And oh my gosh, some of the apartments that I saw and the money that people were asking to move in there, I can seriously never imagine ever wanting to or living in New York City again. It was ridiculous. And I mean, this is like over 20 years ago. And when I think of the prices, there was one apartment, it was like the guy had a bedroom, and then there was the kitchen, and then there was the living room. And in the living room, he literally had hung up like a washing line that he just like put screws in the wall here and in there. And then there was like a shower curtain on it. And he's like, so behind the shower curtain, that's your room, and it's $650 a month for half of the living room blocked off by a shower curtain. And I mean, $650 a month 25 years ago is like, you know, like $12.50 nowadays. It was ridiculous. I was looking for someplace like in the theater convenient area, so like in Hell's Kitchen or around the Times Square area. And of course, you know, that is a place where a lot of people want to live and where, of course, the rents are going to be high. And so eventually I had to like sort of broaden my horizons and look for places a little bit further out of that area. And I was sent to look at an apartment up on 195th and Broadway. Yeah, I had an apartment on the actual Broadway. So I got in the A train, took it all the way up to the stop. I think there is a stop at 195th and Broadway on the A train. And then, I got out of the train and walked around the corner, around this, there was a park there, and right across the street from the park was the building that the apartment was in. And I was like, okay, this isn't half that bad. And I rang the bell and I went up and knocked on the door, and the guy opened the door, and he was, I want to say he was in his 30s. He was in okay shape. He had sort of thinning hair. He looked just like a normal guy. The apartment had a nice kitchen. It had a nice bathroom. It had a big living room that was like sunken, like it was like one step lower than where you entered the apartment. And then it had a bedroom. And looking out of the living room and looking out of the bedroom, it was a view of this park up there on lower 195th Street. So if you want to look at like Google Maps or whatever, look at 195th and Broadway, the lower area, that is where this apartment was. And I was like, jackpot. So I sat down and I talked with the dude, and he made 2 offers. He's like, so there's 2 possibilities. Either you can take the bedroom and it's gonna be this much, and I wanna say it was like $550 or something like that, or you can have the living room area and then it's like $350. And even though I had no money and I was just working like a part-time job and temping, I decided to take the bedroom because I was like, okay, I don't really know this guy. I don't know this area. It's sort of weird to me. It's my first time living with somebody that I like don't know at all, except for in the dorms in college. Before I continue the story, I need to take a drink. Can you hear the ASMR ice cubes? So I checked out the apartment. We set up this deal that I was gonna get the bedroom and he was gonna take over the living room, and that was gonna be like his bedroom, which was really not that strange for New York City. And I moved all my stuff in, which was 1 suitcase and a big duffel bag. And I used a credit card to order a futon bed. And they said they had same day delivery, but actually when I called, they said they were gonna need until the next day. So that night I slept back down in the city at my friend's in Hell's Kitchen. Is this too many details? I feel like I'm drawing this out way too long to get to the actual point of the story. But if you know me from Sunday Sofa Time on the very unofficial travel guides, you'll know there's a lot of tangents around here. It didn't take me long after moving in to realize that this guy was dealing with some mental health issues, to say it nicely. I think the first thing I realized is that he was living under like 3 different names. And the way I realized it is because his bank account was under one name, and the name on his mail was a different name, and on his resume, which he gave to me because he's also an actor, it was another different name. So that was like the first thing where I was like, okay, it's showbiz. This is weird though, but not a problem for me at the moment. I was just happy to have an apartment with a bedroom with a view of a park in New York City on Broadway. The next thing that seemed weird to me and started to really annoy me was when we agreed that I would get the bedroom, he asked me, he was like, I've got some stuff in the closet in that room. And he's like, it's not stuff that I need very often, but I don't really have any place to put it. Is it okay if I just leave it in the closet and, I'll try to, push it all the way over to the side and then you can have the space that's left? And because, I was like moving into his place and taking like the only bedroom, I was like, yeah, it's cool. Mistake. So after I got my futon and after I started sleeping there regularly, he started coming into the bedroom in the mornings while I was sleeping. And the first time that it happened, I woke up and I was like, oh, hey. And he's like, sorry, I just need to get something out of the closet, sorry. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. I mean, that seemed totally normal and totally justifiable. But then it became like a regular thing. Like it was like every couple of days, and then it started happening like every day. Like there were like 3 days in a row. that I woke up because he came into the room and needed to get something out of the closet. And let me tell you, he didn't have a job. He was going nowhere. He wasn't temping. He told me he was working on writing a script, and he had like Bon Jovi's people involved. It was some movie, and it was going to star Bon Jovi and what's her name? Vanessa Williams. That's how you know like how long ago this was. Vanessa Williams. So I got to the point that I was like, what is it that he possibly needs out of this closet every morning? And I remember what I talked to my parents. I think I talked to my dad about it. I was like, this is really weird. And he's like, okay, well, why don't you just tell him before you go to bed? Ask him, listen, do you need anything out of the closet for tomorrow morning? Because you can just take it out now, and then you don't need to come in the morning. And so I did that, and he's like, oh no, I think I'm fine. But the next morning, there he was. And finally, I confronted him on it. And I was like, dude, why are you coming into this room every morning to get something out of the closet? And what is it that you need to get? And he was totally standoffish, and he was like, well, I asked you when you moved in here if it was okay if I kept the stuff in the closet, and you said yes. So this is what you have to deal with. Next warning sign. What do you think about that? I need a drink. ASMR. Moving on to the next thing, and this was when I started to get scared. Like, I was kind of scared of being around him. He went out to do I don't know what, because like I said, he was always in the apartment. He wasn't doing anything. And when he came home, he came like running down the hallway, slammed the door, closed all the locks, and then, I mean, the blinds were pulled anyways, but he went into my room and pulled the blinds down too, and he was convinced that somebody was following him. And I was like, dude, who's following you? I mean, did they like have a gun? Why are you acting like this? I mean, they can't open the door downstairs, and they don't know what apartment you live in, so what is going on? And he was like, I don't know who it is, but when I went to get cash, they were following me, and it's like 3 guys, and I don't know, but don't look outside, and don't open the windows. I don't want them to see where I live. And I was just like, okay, this is starting to get really strange. But it gets even stranger. So in the living room, he had a television, and like I said, he was home all the time, and he had like a little like desktop computer, and he was writing his script with Vanessa Williams and Bon Jovi in it, and all the other time he was sitting in front of the television. And you guys know, if you've watched me on the very unofficial travel guides, like I said, I talk about how important it is to me to have my privacy in the bathroom. I didn't grow up in a family where like everybody shared the bathroom, and like one person was in the shower while one person was brushing their teeth while the other person was peeing. My family wasn't like that. I need a closed door, and I want my own time in there alone. And this is something that I started to find increasingly strange. And that is, I noticed when I would get up in the morning and go into the bathroom from my big duty, if he had the television on, he would turn the television off. And then the apartment was set up that next to the bathroom, there was like a little closet. I think a lot of apartments are like that, where you can put, like the towels and the extra toilet paper and, all those 500 shampoos that you tried and don't like. And then I noticed that when I was in there for like an extended period of time, like when I wasn't just like peeing, not only would he turn the TV off, but I would hear him rummaging around in the closet. Like the closet right next to the bathroom door. The first time or the second time or the third time, it didn't like connect to me. But then I noticed the pattern, and I was like, okay, every time I come in here and sit down, the television goes off, and he's doing something in the closet. The closet right next to the bathroom. But because he was always home, and because I had nothing in that closet, I never really had any reason to go in there, and I wasn't gonna do it when he was home, because like I said, he was paranoid about everything, and I know that he would have freaked out about it. But one day he had to go out for something, I don't know what. Like I said, he never did anything. And that was the day that I realized that there were small holes drilled in the wall of the closet, and when you looked through those holes, you could see the toilet. And wait. Before you're like, okay, well, that might just be a coincidence. Maybe, there were some old shelves there or something like that. Or maybe there was, something else hung up in the bathroom. They weren't, like if this was the wall, they weren't like straight. They were like crooked, like directly focused on the toilet. And they were hidden under, like in the bathroom, there was like a towel rack, and they were hidden like around that area. And I never noticed them, or if I did notice them, I never thought anything about them from the inside of the bathroom, because I thought from the inside of the bathroom, it must have just looked like, okay, somebody at some time tried to hang something up here and they did a bad job and they never filled in the hole afterwards. But no, they were holes so that this dude could watch me poop. Because like I said, when I was just having a leak, there was nothing happening over there. It was only when I was sitting down. And you wonder why I have issues about that now. So of course, after I figured this all out, I was like freaked out. But what could I do? I was already like way in debt with my student loans, and I was paying the rent with my credit card. It's not like I could like take him to court or anything like that. My name isn't on the lease. If I call the cops or something, he's just gonna throw me out anyways. So what I basically did is I just started sleeping on my friends' couches again, even though I was paying him rent. How does this story end, you might ask yourself? Well, I'm gonna tell you that after I take another drink. Cranberry juice and vodka. Thank the Lord, I got a tour, meaning a job that took me out of the city, and that was for several weeks, or it was actually months. Actually, it's even more complicated than that, and maybe I'll tell you guys that story sometime too. But I got a job that took me out of New York City for an extended period of time, so I had a fantastic reason to move out, which he didn't make very easy. He made me in charge of finding a new roommate, and I had lived there for like maybe 2 months. I want to say it was like maybe eight or 9 weeks at the most. So I called the roommate service, I had the people come in, and then I had to send the candidates to him. God, it was so weird. This guy was so weird. Now I look back and I think he just really needed some help and maybe some medication. Anyways, I found a roommate, and I still remember this guy's name. I should see if I can find him on Facebook. And I know as a fact that he moved in, and he actually moved out after 2 or 3 weeks, and he did take him to court. So hopefully he got what was coming to him. I swear, hand on heart, everything I told you in this story is true to my memory of nowadays. Wherever that guy is now, and I'm not gonna say any of his 3 names, I hope that he's doing better. I hope that he got some help. I hope that he's not still preying on roommates. And that's my story. And I still have a lot of drink to go, so I'm gonna turn off the camera and turn on Netflix and chill. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here for my first episode of Drink and Discuss, and I'll see you next week. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we only had 1 telephone line in the apartment, and whenever anybody would call for me, he would never take a message. And if I was home and in my room, he wouldn't come get me. And when I would ask him, I'd be like, my mom said she called a couple days ago, but I didn't get a message. And he would be like, oh yeah, sorry. I was just really busy, and I don't want to say that, what I'm doing is more important than your telephone calls, but it really is. That is like an honest to God quote. He said that to me several times. It was like this weird control thing that he had.